Welcome to my top 5 flower varieties which I grew new in 2025 and which blew my mind away. So I hope you will take some inspiration here from this video and maybe try out a few of those varieties next year. I can highly recommend them to bring you a lot of blooms and a lot of joy in your cut flower garden. Those will be only varieties which I grew from seed. I've done in top 5 video of my dahlia varieties. If you want to see that, you can check this one out here. Otherwise, we'll talk about plants from seed here. I'm Steph in my home garden here in Attleboro, Massachusetts, is zone 6, and I love to take you along for the ride, so welcome to my channel. Let's start with number 5. This variety came to me total by coincidence because I got a seedling 2 years ago from my garden friend Maureen here, which is local, which gave me a seedling at one of our meetups in spring where everybody had some seedlings over. So we were like swapping seedlings, and she handed me over an Ageratum seedling. And I've never grown Ageratum until this point. I was like, okay, I'll find a spot for it, and tucked it into my cut flowers section. And it took a while for it to take off in that corner because there were already a few larger plants around it, but boy did I love it when it finally took off. So for that reason, I definitely wanted to grow some Ageratum in 2025 again, and found the variety, the Tall Blue Planet from Johnny's. And I gotta say, I'm like such a fan now. It is one of the most beautiful fillers in there. I also tried out a white variety, which I think got at like Eden Brothers or so, but this one was a little bit hit or miss because the white blooms looked very quickly brownish or had a brown tint to it if they weren't picked in the moment they were prime. But the blue varieties, they were just gorgeous. They stuck around for a long time and were a little bit more forgiving. They were also like really, really tall, and it's a complete cut and come again. So from the moment you have a couple plants in your garden and cut them, they will just regrow. And I noticed now that the temperatures are cooler again, they regrow even thicker. So they definitely like the cooler weather a little bit better. And I can't tell you how many stems I cut from. I think I had in the end 5 plants, like 3 blue ones and 2 white ones in my garden. And I cut them from starting end of June until I'm still cutting them. We're here in the first weekend of October when I record this video here. So they are beautiful. So I can highly recommend to get some Ageratum, but make sure it's a tall variety which you pick. I can recommend that one from Johnny's. You'll find it linked below, but you will need some tall ones to ensure that you're able to cut them for cut flower arrangements as well. So moving on with number 4, this is the Limonada Celosia from Floret. I already had like seeds last year, but for some reason they fell off the radar last year. And so I grew them this year, and they were just beautiful. I really, really loved them. Celosia always comes a little bit late for me, but when it comes, it really does well and doesn't stop until frost hits it. They were just this beautiful color which mixed into everything which I grew in my garden. So it was totally multi-purpose stems for me, with green stems and this beautiful like creamy, buttercreamy, whitish tassels on the top. So I really enjoyed this one. It grew well, it regrew, it threw a lot of stems after it got going. And yeah, so that was, from all the Celosia I've grown, that was one of my favorites. For this one, most of them were like normal size. I would say like 3-4 feet, especially when you keep cutting them for cut flowers. But one was in a corner where I couldn't reach it anymore because like the garden eventually went into a jungle phase like late August, and I couldn't reach that corner anymore. And I had like one stem which like grew up to like 8 feet or so. So that one wasn't great because I couldn't fully reach it anymore until I hacked down a few other plants which was keeping me away from it. But other than that, it was really beautiful, and also I saved some seeds from it. So it was, yeah, a really, really beautiful filler plant, which I enjoyed growing. Moving on to number 3. As you know, I love growing Lisianthus. This is one of my favorite things to do in the dead of the winter when there's nothing else to grow. And I had one new variety which I really enjoyed, and this was the Roseanne Terracotta. It was like clearly a spun-off of the Roseanne Brown, which I grew for the first time the year before, but this one had a little bit more of an light brownish color to it, or almost like a cafe kind of color, which also like mixes with almost anything what I have in the garden, and mixed with the peaches palette as well as with my soft pinks super well. So it was just such a pleasant surprise on how versatile this plant was. And I had on this one probably the most stems of all my Lisianthus, so I really enjoyed this one. And then moving on to number 2, which was one which totally blew my mind, and I'm so glad I saw it last year with my friend Steph from Hooked and Rooted Garden on her YouTube videos, and this was the Dwarf Zinnia Zahara Raspberry Ripple. Those teeny tiny adorable zinnias cranked out flowers like nobody's business. I had them here in a container setup on my deck, and oh boy, did I love them. They were amazing. Like in the end of the season, they tuckered slightly out because I was not very diligent with deadheading the dead blooms. That was totally on me, but they were grown so easy, filled up those containers so beautifully, so quickly. If you want to see how we completely filled up this container, you can also check out this video. But they were just, I will do that, I think, now forever. I really enjoyed this variety. I have already my seeds for next year to fill all the containers with that raspberry ripple, because it was the perfect container plant, I gotta tell you. So if you're looking to grow next year your container plants or some sort of a lower border plant by yourself to save yourself some money, I can highly recommend this one. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Moving on to the number 1, which I gotta say, I loved it so much. You probably heard me talking already here or on my Instagram channel about it, but that was such a beautiful variety. I hope I will get seeds for next season because they're still out of stock. I'm talking about the double frappe pink Snapdragon variety from Johnny's. Gorgeous. The most beautiful double Snapdragon flowers. For some reason, that was the only Snapdragon variety which was unbothered by bugs mostly, compared to like my Apple Blossom and a couple of other Potomac varieties which I have, which are always magnets for everything what likes to hide in those little bloom pockets, and totally unbothered by it. Gorgeous stems, blooms non-stop, and I kept them in the garden after spring. And now that we have October, they're actually reblooming. The blooms are not as full as the first flush in spring, but they're still gorgeous, and I love to tuck them into my bouquets as supporting actors, and they bring me a lot of joy. So I might just do that variety only next year as Snapdragons, but we will see. They stunned me multiple times this year, and also for how long they actually kept going, because our spring was really weird. We had it first hot, then cold, then it was rainy, and then it took a while to get really hot. And yeah, anyhow, they really loved and didn't even blink at the weather roller coaster we had here. So I hope you enjoyed this little roundup of my 5 new favorite varieties of 2025. So let me know if you have any questions. I put all the links in the description. Again, not all of them are available right now, but sign up for the notification when they come back in stock, which I hope they all will. And yeah, otherwise subscribe and watch another video. Thank you.